Hi, everybody. This is Liz Hyman, and we are in our second week of Rev Up Your Startup. This week, we're going to be working on the second part of business strategy. So we'll be focused on goals and SWOT analysis and moving things forward. So let me introduce everybody that's with us today. We have Ellen and Kevin and Nicole and Whitney. And Whitney, you didn't get to introduce yourself last week. I'm going to let you look at the video if you want an introduction for everybody else, but will you do a quick introduction? Who you are, what
Sure.
company you work for, or running?
So Whitney Emanuel. I'm a financial advisor. I've been a financial advisor for 7 years. I broker through New York Life. So Nicole and I were just talking about this the other day. I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I use their structure, but I have my own business within it called Strategic Visionaries. But I am looking to go independent in one form or another here within the next year. So right now it's me and my assistant, so it's a two-person team, but I would like to have a partner structure where I can take partners on, and I want to hit 1 million in revenue is my goal. I'd say within 5 years.
Excellent. So Whitney, I don't know if you've done the first part of your strategic plan, but we worked on ours together last week. So if you want to set up a time that we can walk through it, that you and I can walk through it, I will do that with you and work on your value prop and all that stuff. Okay?
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, that sounds great.
All right. Okay. Are there any questions before we get started on our second part of business strategy? Okay, there's one more thing I want to share with you that I forgot. I wanted to share with you, and that is that I have set up office hours, and I'll send you all an invitation. On Tuesday mornings, and what that means is it's just an informal time for us to chat. So if you can join us, that would be great. But if you want to work on something specific, or you have questions that you want to ask, or you just want to chat with me, I'm going to leave that time open on my calendar, and then just turn on this same GoToMeeting, and anybody can join or not join as fits your schedule. Okay, and I'll send you all the invitation next after we're done. I didn't want to send it before because I didn't want to confuse you. So we've got that coming. Okay, so let's dig in. Let's get started. So we're in week 2 of business strategy. Last week we worked on critical things like vision and values and mission and value proposition. We did not work on ideal customer profile, but we will get that in there because while most people don't put ideal customer profile into a business strategy, I think you can't have a business strategy without really understanding who you're selling to. And you build your strategy around that as opposed to it being an afterthought. So we will get to that either today or tomorrow or next week. So let's, I want to start, boy, I'm really talented. I want to start by thinking about, there you are, Kevin, by thinking about goals. That's really the next step in the process. And I want us to try as much as we can to work in SMART goals. And I know you've all heard this before, but I can, even though I do this all the time, I always have to look up what those letters stand for. So let's go through them together. SMART goals are specific. So rather than being grand, we're very specific. They're measurable. They're actionable, meaning somebody actually could look at it and do something. It's not something that's so amorphous that we can't work around it. They're realistic and they're time bound. So we usually tie a date to them. Okay? So let's think about goals for a minute. We want to run our startup so that we're driving revenue and hitting those, pushing sales forward. But in order to do that, we really need to have clear goals and understand how those goals fit together. So often when people are setting their goals in a strategy, they just pull a number out of the air. They throw it up as their revenue goal, and they don't think about how exactly you would support that revenue goal. So what we want to do is start with revenue goal, really think about what revenue goal we want to set maybe for a year from now. We need, each of you can pick a time period that makes sense. And then we're going to think about the things that are going to support that. So let's start with revenue. Whoops. Do you guys have any idea what kinds of revenue goals? Whitney, I think you said something about $1 million. $1 million by when?
In 5 years.
In 5 years. So
Yep.
do you have a short-term goal that's more manageable?
Yeah. My revenue last year was 102, so I'd like to hit 150 in 2019.
Okay, so that's what I would put on your revenue goal. In your vision, put the $5 million goal. And for now, in your, let's think a little bit shorter term so we can manage it. Let's think about either 2019 or 2020. Kev, so go ahead and write that in, and then put a date next to it. When do you think you would be able to? And Kevin, what's yours?
So I did. So I did some modeling, and I did two versions. One with outside funding, and the other bootstrapped. And so I think there's probably a 2x difference with outside funding versus organic growth. So for 5 years, I think organic growth, we're setting a target of 5 million. With outside investors, we'd be looking at 10 million for that, and that's and so then I broke down the year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 number, so amount of revenue, growth year over year, and then average sales price or average contract value assumption, number of customer assumption for that. So yeah, so I think for this we could go with the 5 mil model. And so first year, let me bring that up. I think we're trying to get to 1 million.
Okay.
In first year. Yeah.
Excellent. And Nicole, do you know what your goal is for this year? I know you do.
I do. So we are on pace to actually grow by 100% right now. But because we have a lot of our infrastructure and stuff in place, I get to spend the next 5 months, the remainder of this year, pretty much solely focused on sales and marketing. And so my goal would be to get our revenues up to being between 800 and 1 million.
Excellent.
My ultimate goal would be 1 million. And I know how many accounts that it would require me to do, and we have lists to back that up. And so I'm feeling honestly like $1 million bucks. No pun intended.
Excellent. Could you put that on your Facebook page today that you're feeling like $1 million bucks?
Sure, I'll do that. I'm not great with social media, but I've got a plan in place for that. So one of the things I'm working on.
Good. Okay. And Ellen, do you have a goal for this next year or for our long-term goal?
So I think for the next 12 months, I have two goals. One goal that is for bookings and another for how much I would have actually collected.
Okay, so let's do the revenue
to sort of break it up like that. So I want to have this is a 12-month, not a 2018.
However you want to do it.
I want to have, yeah. So just so that I'm long enough horizon from now, I want to do a 12-month. And so I would like in the next 12 months to have 6 $50,000 clients signed. So 300,000.
Excellent. Okay, so that's our starting place. Did I get everybody? Yeah. That's our starting place for where we move forward. Now we have to think about how are we going to support that. I like to have market goal, an operations goal, and a product goal. So often companies get really focused on the product. What do we need to accomplish on our product rather than thinking about what things do we need to put in place to support the sales that we're about to deliver. So you know, if you have $300,000 in sales or $1 million in sales, you need to know what it's going to take to deliver that product. And it's also important to think about market share and where you want to be in the marketplace. So often when we're starting with a startup, we're like, yeah, I'm going after the world. And it's hard to manage the whole world. So I like to think in markets. So, and markets can be vertical markets, markets can be geographical markets. The question is, what makes sense for you? So what kind of market share do you want to achieve, or what markets do you want to pursue? So think about what's a good goal for you. If you're going to hit that number this year that you just said you were going to hit, what market do you need to really focus on to get there? And how do you want to structure that? So for instance, you could say, I want 30% of the market share in Reno, or I want to grow the California market so that I have 50 clients in the California market, or I want the startup market. So think about what kind of progress you need to make in a market that's going to move you in the right direction. So does somebody want to try and see? Let's see if we can get some examples.
So I have a question on that, Liz. So I have a couple different audiences. So I have, you know, different value propositions for them, and I'm curious whether we should be setting goals that add up to like that these more specific goals, whether they should be adding up to more than our overall goal. So for instance, you know, my goal would be to have 3 clients with 2 different providers of services to like on-site clinics. So it's 6 employers and 3 employers that use one provider of on-site clinics and 3 that use another. And then I have a second target in the area of hospitals that are also payers. And so does that make sense? So I've got, you know, the 3 and 3, and then
you know, you might also almost say that these are the 3 markets I'm going after, the 3 verticals. So my goal by the end of this year is in the hospital market to have 1, in the provider market with this company, I'd like 1, or, you know, so just you can have 3 different very specific market goals.
Okay. Yeah, it really is only 2. I'm not spread 3 thin.
Okay, good.
It's
so
just
you
that,
want 2 in one market, 2 in the provider market, and 1 in the hospital market. And then
yes,
next year, you're going to want to, since that's the way you're dividing up your focus, and you may want to do, you know, hospital market on the West Coast or something like that. So just be really specific about when you want to achieve them by and what your goal is in that market.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a little bit of a channel strategy. It's sort of direct to the hospital, and then the clinic market, it's 2 providers, but I want 3 customers from each of those providers because I want them to become my channel eventually.
Okay, good. All right. And anybody else have questions about this or want to give a sample?
Yeah, I mean, so for us, we have a goal of not only increasing our market share, but also moving up market across the country.
Excellent.
So our marketing efforts are lists that aren't solely focused here in the Twin Cities. And additionally, we have been able to build a strategy where we have 2 audiences, but get to approach them with the same approach, which is really awesome that just happened to work out that way. But one of our key goals is to build strategic partnerships with development companies and branding agencies across the country, because they don't do what we do and we don't do what they do.
Right.
And so we have a really awesome plan, not fully developed. I'm hoping that this program will actually help me fill in some of the gaps there, and which is why Alice asked me specifically on the partnership side. But what's great is our partners could also be our clients, right? And so it's the same type of nurturing relationship with partners as we get to have with the types of clients that we are currently doing business with and want to do more business with. So
maybe in this case, you could put more than one market goal, or maybe you want to put that's your market goal is to focus on those partners,
right,
as one of the markets that you're really focused on.
Right.
And
yep,
how
it is.
How much you want to grow that by when?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for right now, I have a goal in place to have 3 legal agreements with partners in place by the end of this year.
Great.
And then figuring out how to improve and nurture that relationship on a quicker basis, because partnerships can take longer to establish, but then they can also be incredibly fruitful.
Mm-hmm. Good. Excellent. Yep. Okay. Are you guys okay if we move to operations, or does somebody else want to test out their market? We good? Okay. So if you were going to hit that revenue goal, what would it take to support that? So Kevin, if you're doing $1 million, can you do that all by yourself with your partner? Or is it going to take some tech support? Is it going to take an onboarding person? What kind of support is it going to take for that to happen?
Yeah, we would have to staff up across. We could probably stretch. So we could probably stretch with the existing team for a little bit, and then midway we'd probably be staffing up. I don't know that I haven't actually thought through how many in which teams yet, but yeah, you're right. You're challenging me to think through that. So
when I think about operations, I'm thinking about things like, how many people are we going to need in order to do this? What roles are they going to need to fill? So you could all actually separate operations and HR. Sometimes it's easier to put them together, up to you. But also things like, I don't think any of you are shipping anything, but if you had a product that actually needed to ship, what things would you need to put in place to do that? Do you need more computer equipment in order to deliver services? Like, what things need to be put in place in order to hit those revenue goals? Or no, not partly in order to hit them, but if you hit them, like we're going to, and you sell all of that, how are you going to deliver it? Is really what I'm thinking about. So what resources do you need in order to sell it, and what resources do you need in order to deliver it if you sell it?
Sorry, are you waiting for an answer from me? Oh.
What?
No, I just was asking if you're waiting for an answer from me. I don't have the answer to that.
You don't have the answer to that one? I'll torture you about it next week then. You don't have to have the answer right now.
I know I'll have to set up protocols that are compatible with each of the customers that I set up, and there will be some incremental video production as a result of that. And I have my vendors lined up for that, and I expect that my the purchase price is going to have an onboarding part that's separate from the subscription.
Okay, so pick 1 or 2 of those things that you need to really focus on. I need an operation system that is formatted and protocoled, and people following that protocol, and I need it done by this date.
So I don't actually have any advanced work because I've already done all of that. And so I'm ready, and it's just an onboarding engagement with the customer.
Okay, so you're going to do the onboarding yourself?
Well, with my co-founders, yes.
Okay, so you have enough, good. So you have enough resources in place to support your sales goals for the year?
Yes.
Good. Whitney, what are you thinking? If you hit that 150,000, are there any operational changes you need to make to support that?
It's more about that focusing on the market. So just our previous point, like I need to really market to and get the clients that I'm focusing on in order to hit that revenue goal. And then, so, you know, financial advisors can do a whole lot of different things, but my approach is the fee-based financial planning and leading with that. And then all the other things fall into place when you lead with that. So I actually just a couple of weekends ago telling Alice that I went on a business planning retreat, and something that my assistant and I came up with was really really making a systematic financial planning process and following that very specifically, right? So, and breaking it up. So instead of talking about all the product recommendations in one meeting, breaking it down into 2 meetings. So that way it's a lot easier.
Oops, you're frozen.
Just about creating processes to support that.
Great. So put that in your operations and when you want to have that done and who needs to do it. That's
Okay.
great. And then the last thing is product. What needs to change? Are there developments that you need to make to your product before the end of this year in order to support the growth that you want, or to support the sales that you're making? Nicole, is yours all set? Your product, I mean, you don't have changes in your product, or are you redeveloping your product as you grow?
So, really great question, but yeah, it takes innovation and SEO to be really, really good at it. Nobody here is Google. And so what we do is we build internal websites and that we A/B test in various niches, both products and service-based type niches. And we start with 0 brand and then try and get as much traffic over a period of time. And they're longer term projects, right? It might take 10 months to get it to start ranking. But so like, to give you an example, one of the projects we built, it started at 0, and in 10.5 months, it was at over 130,000 organic visitors per month.
That's great.
Which is pretty incredible. And then so product development is a real thing for us, but it's just kind of not your typical product development, R&D.
So Kevin, are you thinking you need Nicole's help?
You saw me just go off mute there because I was like, now that you have all of our attention.
Yeah.
Kevin's eyes just got huge. I don't know if you saw that, Nicole, but it's like,
right.
I need that.
You can call me Kevin. I got you.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, that's great. Good. So Nicole, that's exactly what I was asking. So thinking about how you need to understand your product development in order to support the growth that you're going after.
Right.
So, okay, is everybody comfortable with all 4 of these? Does anybody want to test theirs or ask a question?
I actually have a question. So as a financial advisor, the products, we don't create products, right? So we just use products that are already existing. So how would I talk about the type of products that I would be offering to my clients that fit their needs more? Like, what are my niche products that I would offer?
Do that. You might also give yourself goals to learn new products or to make new relationships with one of the product companies.
Okay, yeah, like wholesalers and all. Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I encourage you to run this past your partners and think about this, because these 4 things are going to be really critical to driving your revenue and driving your success. And there's nothing worse than selling it and having to tell somebody you can't deliver. So we want to make sure that we don't focus, we want to focus on sales, we want to make those sales, but simultaneously we want to be thinking about all of these other things and how we're going to deliver. And when we get to the part where we're talking about our funnels, you'll see how we can use our funnel as a tool for helping us predict when we need to get certain things done on the operations and HR side. So remind me about that when we get there. But that's one of the things I love about the funnel process, is it helps us to predict what's coming when, so we can build around it. Okay, so you have a revenue goal. what systems do you need to put in place in order to support that goal? So if you have a revenue goal of 300,000, are you going to need a sales team in place? Are you going to need SEO in place? Are you going to need, I don't know, what do you need in order to hit that revenue? In order to make that kind of growth, what are you going to need to put in place to support that? Can you sell it yourself? Oh, there she is.
I thought my video was on the whole time. I'm so sorry. The whole time I thought it was on. Don't judge me. Don't, yeah.
That's okay. I thought I was recording something the other day and I realized it was on pause the whole time. So
Okay.
technology, we'll just keep at it until we've mastered it or it's mastered us, I guess.
Right.
Okay. So Nicole, I'm going to put you on the spot again, and because I think you're furthest along in the thinking about these things. So in order to hit your revenue goal, what do you need to put in place? I already know what Kevin does because I just saw from his face he needs SEO in order to hit that revenue goal. So what are you thinking?
So couple of things. It's going to come down to our marketing and then how good our sales are and paying attention to those metrics, right? And we have engineered a really, really fantastic sales process that I actually came up with while I was at the American Association of Inside Sales Leadership Summit in Chicago earlier this year. And then it's going to be our finances. Like our CFO comes in once a month, and then every week we sit down, our office manager, the other owner, and myself, and every week we do a full scope financial review, cash flow projections, our COGS, where is our cost structure profitable, and stuff. And so we go through that stuff. And then of course AR, and then we actually just implemented a sales meeting, takes place now every Monday.
Excellent.
So going through our Salesforce, seeing our pipeline, who was added to Salesforce in the last 30 days for contacts, and then nobody's done anything with them. There's no follow-up scheduled, all those kinds of things.
Great. So it sounds like a good thing for a goal for you is to really get that sales process humming, right? So you created it. Our goal is to get all of those steps so that they're consistent and they're refined and they're manageable and they're working. So that's what a good goal would be.
Yep. Right.
Okay. Does somebody else have a system that they need to put in place around, or a system or a strategy around revenue?
Yeah, well, I definitely need to put a system and probably some software around it so that I'm managing stages of a funnel properly.
Okay. And we can talk about some of those. That's CRMs and funnel managers are, there's so many, it's hard to choose, but that's a really good thing to think about putting in place. And to start, Ellen, we can do it with a spreadsheet. So we'll do that in a couple of weeks. Okay.
Thanks.
And then on the product side, which could include marketing, actually that should go on the revenue side, but I don't know if you have any systems or strategies you want to put in place around product development. Kevin, I think you're probably doing the most product development right now, or is yours done?
It's never done. It feels pretty good, but there's a pretty long list on the roadmap of things that we want to add, and that we've been asked by customers to add. So I think there's a couple of major pieces around analytics and integrations. Those are big, and then there's a number of other things in terms of user flows, templates, things like that we'd like to add. So that is actually pretty well fleshed out.
Okay, good.
For product roadmap, it's just prioritization and timing and things like that.
Okay. And then market share. If we're gonna focus on a certain market, what do we need to do? What do we need to put in place in order to focus on that specific market that we already decided on? Okay, so do you want me to give you a second to fill that out, or are you guys good with this section? We're good. Okay. So, and I don't think I mentioned this last week, but I am happy to, once we get this strategy finished, you can send it to me, or we can get on the phone and go through it together. I'm happy to sort of help you guys make it as powerful as it can be. So, okay, so we start with goals, systems, and strategies to support those goals. And then I'm going to do something totally untraditional. So normally people start doing a SWOT analysis before they start doing goals. But I find that it's really hard to think in such big terms, and it's more powerful in the short run to think about how you're positioned to achieve the goals you just set out, as opposed to how am I positioned to run this entire company for the next 10 years. That's really like a big, hard thing to think about. But if we think about how am I positioned right now to achieve these goals, then we can start thinking about where our strengths and weaknesses are and what specific actions we need to take to leverage those strengths and weaknesses. So let's see. So a SWOT analysis, have any of you done SWOT analysis before? Okay.
Yes, I haven't really done one for this company.
That's okay. That's okay. It's a good time to do it. And we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I think it's important. I like to stay focused. So we're doing, right now we're going to talk about our strengths and our weakness in regards to our product, our company, and our team. Okay. And I'm going to tell you one thing that makes me crazy. So none of you say it because I'll like fall off my chair. One of the things that people will say to me all the time is, oh, my team is my strength. It's the people in this organization that make it really great. And while that's true, it's also not true, because when somebody else offers, if they're not your partner, somebody else offers them a job for more money, guess where they're going? To this other job with more money. So if your primary strength is the team that you have, that's a problem. So I would rather hear strengths around, for instance, the culture that cultivates the team that you have or attracts the team that you have, because the individuals in the team could change. Now, it may be, since you're starting right now, you have some real strengths in your team because you have some great developers that you can really count on are committed to this. That's okay for the short run, but I want you to think more about things that are reproducible or things that are specific to your company. So let's think about some strengths from regarding your product, your company, or your team. What strengths do you have that are internal that you can leverage to grow your business, to hit your revenue goals and your product goals and so forth? And let's just throw some out there. Just throw them out.
I think for us,
I'm good at public speaking.
but I think we have a unique product. That's probably the biggest strength for us.
Okay, so what I need you to do is break that down. What is it about your product that's unique? And okay, because you're going to want to leverage those things. So one thing I will say about Kevin's product is I've been using it, and it is so easy, and most products like his are not. So that's pretty cool. So Whitney, what were you going to say? What's a strength that you have?
Oh, I'm good at public speaking.
Good, and you can leverage that. That's really good.
Absolutely. And I want to focus that more as part of my strategy and marketing strategy.
Right. So that can go into at the top under revenue. What are some strategies you can use? Well, getting out and speaking is a strategy you can use to achieve that revenue. Okay.
Cool.
Ellen, how about you? Do you have some strengths?
Yeah, I mean, I think we also are in a unique product situation, and so, we'll see what actually comes out of the patents we've filed, but I think we have a unique approach that is more compatible with the way that our customers are operating their businesses.
Okay, so that's a big product strength is
Yes.
is that you have an operational match with your consumers
Yes.
or with your customers. Okay, so if each of you can think of at least one strength around your product, one strength that's broader about your company, and one strength that's specific to a team member or um, team members that you have, or something really specific. So again, do we have a company culture? I think that Nicole told us a lot about a company culture that they're developing from their values that will attract the right people, that will help them attract the right people. So that's powerful. We have a set of values that we are building a company culture around that will attract the people that we want. That's a strength. Okay. Okay, and then weaknesses. And this is always hard. So weaknesses are internal. And they're really important because these are the things that we also need to act around. So if one of my strengths is public speaking, I need to set up some actions around public speaking so I make sure that I'm out there speaking. But if we have a weakness, let's say I have a weakness that I'm technology challenged, and it's really inhibiting my ability to work on certain kinds of projects, then that's a weakness. And I either need to hire somebody who can manage that, have an Amanda around to save me, or I need to spend some time on my skills. And I need to set that up specifically, take actions around that. So think about your company in terms of your product. Every product has weaknesses. So what are there weaknesses in your product or in your offering? Are there weaknesses overall in your company? That might be things like cash flow. It might be things like right now your revenue generation. It might be lack of HR staff. It might be lack of processes. So think about what is a weakness right now that could interfere with you achieving the goals you want to achieve, and make a list of those.
Can I talk about one that's
Yeah.
Yeah, so I talked about the unique product being our primary strength. And this is the thing that scares the crap out of me, because I think it's also one of our biggest weaknesses. And this is something that I heard at SaaStr, because I think it was the guy who, was it Trello? One of those guys. Anyway, he talked about, in SaaS, so software as a service, you have a feature that is either, if it's highly adopted, then it's easily copied. And so there's no moat around it. If this, people love this and it, continues to grow, and at some point, bigger companies, other companies catch wind of it, they can copy it easily. And so that's one of the things that probably stresses me out. I mean, the whole list of weaknesses does, but it's one of those things where I'm like, that advantage might not last, beyond several years. So, I just answered my own question, because then the answer to that is innovation, right? You have to continue to be innovative. You have to continue to be faster, better than other products. So.
Yeah, you should probably also put on your list to talk to a copyright attorney.
Yeah, and patent, yeah, but
patent and figure out what is protectable.
Right.
And I will say this is also true. Sorry, I'm going to go off track for just a second, but I think this is important. When you go to an investor, one of the most important questions that they will ask you, and it will truly impact whether or not they give you money or not, is whether what you have is protectable or not. If it's protected in some way or can be protected in some way, then they're more interested. If it's not, they're really you're hard pressed to get the money that you need, because they will feel that their investment is threatened.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I can second that after being through venture capital stuff.
so Kevin, we should work on that. We should find a time to sit and talk about what are some strategies around that will protect you.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's something that I've, it's not the first time I'm thinking through it. It's like the balance of, yes, you can go through this lengthy, expensive process to patent it. And in some industries, if it was like biomedical, that makes sense. In software, usually the competitive advantage is expertise in the area and then speed of innovation. Because you just wouldn't have the resources to spend a bunch of time in courts, suing people. Even if it is protected, it doesn't matter because technology changes so fast that, but it is, I recently made a friend actually this last weekend, who's a patent lawyer.
Good.
So
excellent.
It's worth a coffee at least. Yeah. So
Excellent.
So Kevin, I'm going to second that and say, best offense is, that the patents are more a defense than an offense kind of thing. And it's totally fine to do a provisional where you throw everything but the kitchen sink, even though it belongs in 10 different patents. If you just get it documented and get a precedent date, then you've done the part that you need for the fundraising. And I agree with Liz on looking to some of the copywriting, because if you're doing some unique things where you're inventing a term that people are going to copy, like, maybe they're going to copy the feature, but you can prevent them from using the same name for the feature, right?
Right. That's a good point. Thanks.
Okay, so then let's think about threats and opportunities. And this has to do with market, technology, environment, or other kinds of economic factors. And I'm going to throw out there right now, trade wars, right? We don't usually have to think about that when we're building our business. But I have a couple of clients right now that are being impacted. One works in the steel industry, and they're concerned that their Asian market is going to go away because China's going to dump in Asia. So that's one. I have another company who works with clients like Caterpillar, who there was just an article written about how Caterpillar is really worried about their comeback and how this trade war is going to impact them. So you may not have thought about the trade war, for example, but think about your clients, how they will be impacted directly or indirectly, and this could be an opportunity or a threat. Right? So this is the time to think about the market, the technology. So, so for you, a threat would be other people building technology that does what yours does, Kevin. A threat, Ellen, for you might be something like a change in legislation or healthcare law.
Yes.
Or healthcare
I'm worried
funding.
about midterm elections.
So those are the kinds of things that it's important because we have to be prepared to capitalize on those opportunities and to minimize those threats as much as possible. We can't stop a trade war, but what can we do? We can focus our energy on a market that's not going to be as affected by the trade war. If Caterpillar's our biggest client, then we better start getting some other clients really fast in different sectors that are not going to be so impacted. So that's the strengths and opportunities. And a lot of times there may only be 3 or 4 in each of those categories. Sometimes there's more. And I'm not all about, hundreds of things in these lists. What's important? Okay. What? Go ahead. Kevin, were you saying something?
Oh yeah, I heard someone else talking at the same time, but okay. So my question was, the strengths and weaknesses were for product, company, and team, and then opportunities and threats. Do we do that also for product, company, and team, and then for market? No. Okay, got it.
Because our product and company and team are internal. They're things that we can control.
Yeah.
I can get a better team. However, for instance, the economy might create a threat because I can't get the team members I need. But that would be external. But the team that I have, that's something I can control. I can fire, I can train, I can redirect. I can, you know, make people managers. I can control all of that. So really,
Got it. Got it.
the internal things are the things that are about us and that we control. The external things are like the economy. If what happens if the stock market crashes? What happens if the rivers get polluted? I'm looking at environmental. You know, does that impact what I'm doing? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe there's nothing about the environment that's going to change what I do. Or Whitney, maybe for you, because people feel threatened by the environmental decisions that are being made right now, you decide that you're going to put some more environmentally friendly products in your tool bag because
Sure.
because that's an external thing that's happening in the marketplace, and then you can address it. So these are things that will drive our behavior and our decisions. But if we don't think about them, then we have threats and opportunities that we're not capitalizing on. And one of the things about this process that I think is so important is the actual writing it down. Talking about it is one thing, thinking about it is one thing, putting it in words, and sometimes with a pencil or a pen makes your brain process it in a very different way. It becomes much more real than this, oh, there's a trade war happening somewhere over there. Right, when you write it down, there's a trade war and this is how it's impacting my clients, it completely changes the way your mind processes it and the way you then find solutions for it. Okay, so I really challenge you guys to write this down and share it with me. So
Cool.
your homework is going to be, after you finish all of this, to think about specific actions. And this part is really important. And I know, Nicole, you've just done all of this, but what are the specific actions that you're going to take? So Whitney, for instance, you said that you could be out speaking. Great. What actions do you need to take to get you out speaking? You know, do you need to contact all the EAs in the neighborhood? Do you need to go to the do you need to get on the docket at women or PS, I don't know, a women's organization, a women's money organization, or, you know, like, where do you need to be speaking? How are you going to create the list? Who's going to make the phone calls? You know, things don't just happen. Like, just having an idea, as you know, doesn't make it happen. And so I don't want you to put tons and tons of activities, but make it doable. You know, what can I do to really move these critical priorities forward? If I want to hit that $300,000 goal or that $1 million goal, what actions do I need to take that I need to get on my calendar and make happen in order to move this forward? Now, again, I want to go back to the idea of, why are we doing this in a sales program? And it's because the next step of this is going to be to think about your sales strategy. I can't make a sales strategy if I don't understand these critical pieces. And next week, we'll talk about ideal customer profile. We'll talk about, where does that revenue that you're talking about come from? What kinds of clients does it come from? What markets does it come from? Who's going to sell it? We're going to start thinking about all of that. How is this going to operationalize? So just putting a number out there is one thing, but we have to actually operationalize it. And you really need a good strategy to build on. And your value propositions. We send salespeople out, or we send ourselves out without a clear value proposition, and we have a really hard time closing business, or even getting people to have a serious conversation with us. So these are things that we're going to need to do to, to build our sales, our revenue. So that's what we'll be focused on next week, is really, how do we operationalize getting the revenue goal that we want? Do you have any questions?
I'm going to skedaddle. I have a 2 o'clock.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Kevin, did you have a question before we sign off?
Yeah. I was just saying that as we were talking, I was rebuilding your, like, your SWOT and all that in slides over here. If you have the original deck,
I'll send it to you.
yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Are you putting it into a deck into a playbook for me?
That's a great idea. We should do that. No, I've just been using a Google Deck, but yes, that's also a good idea.
I actually really love this. I turned the strategic dynamic plan into a Google sheet. So I'm actually just going to share it with you so you can just see the evolution.
Excellent.
And can make notes right in there without having to go do the back and forth thing. So that'll be helpful.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I don't use Google Sheets as much as I should.
Oh, it's awesome.
I know it.
It's the new Excel.
Yeah.
Okay, so finish your sheets, put them in a Google Doc and send me the link and I'll put notes in it. Next Tuesday, I will send you the invitation. I believe it's next Tuesday we start office hours, so I'll send you an invite so you guys can join me or not. Don't feel obligated. It's just a time for us to talk about things. And that's all I have. Thanks, you guys. Have a great week.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you too. Thank you very much.
You're
Bye,
welcome.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.